Is there sound on Mars? Yes. And what you would have heard had you been there would have been the sound of millions of dollars and years of hard work smashing into its surface, or maybe skipping off into space. We don't really know what happened to the Mars Climate Orbiter, but we do know shortly before it was supposed to enter its orbit around Mars, it went off-grid forever. Why? Because of a failed attempt at unit conversions. NASA lost its $125 million spacecraft because the engineers at Lockheed Martin had used the imperial system of measurements, and the engineers at NASA had used the international system of measurements, and nobody caught the discrepancy. This failed space mission happened because literally we didn't write out and convert our units. Now, to be fair, I'm picking on some of the smartest people in the world who mathed in ways I can't even imagine, but they didn't even mess up in a cool integral or something. It was literally just writing out their units, which is something of first-year chemistry and physics students. Are you inspired to care about unit conversions yet? No? Let's try this one. In 1983, Air Canada had just switched over to the metric system from the empirical system, which means now the fuel is going to be calculated in kilograms instead of pounds. Air Canada's first flight under this system takes off, and about halfway through, it runs out of gas. Why? Because of an error in converting units. Now get this is important. Because there was a miscalculation, the computer didn't know there was an error, and it never told anyone it was running out of fuel. The computer didn't know that there had been a calculation error. So, about halfway through the flight, the plane runs out of gas. The engines fail. I'll spare you the extremely long, terrifying descent, but the end of the story is because of two very experienced pilots, the plane was landed with no injuries on board and no injuries on the abandoned runway where kids were playing. So that's a really happy ending to what could have been a devastating story. Are you inspired to care about unit conversions yet? Need I move on to botched unit conversions in hospital settings? I'll leave that to your imagination, but you see my point. This is really important, and I can already hear what you're gonna say. I don't really need this, I'll just use my phone. I'm not even gonna talk about what happens if your phone dies or the internet goes out. Let's just talk about instead what you have that Google doesn't. Common sense. Every single time you make a calculation, you need to ask, does this make sense? Let's try an example. Okay, so there's like 1,000,000 meters in a micrometer and 39 inches in a meter, so I'll just multiply by 1,000,000 and by 39, so there's 27,300,000 inches in diameter. No, not done, you potato. You must ask, does this make sense? 27 million inches is literally longer than the state of Florida. The long way. That's a freaking big respiratory droplet. Let's look at this problem again.
Oh, here's the problem. 1 meter is equal to 1,000,000 micrometers, not 1,000,000 meters equal to 1 micrometer. We can fix that. And then we see that it actually equals 0.003 inches. And that makes sense because that's something you could barely not see, just like a respiratory droplet.
So takeaways? Unit conversions are super important. 2, everybody needs this. 3, we're better than robots because we have common sense. And 4, use your common sense and always ask, does this make sense? That's it for this edition of Chemistry in Real Life.